Mr. President, welcome back to Maryland, sir. Welcome back to Maryland. It's good to see you.
In person, too.
Thank you, sir. Great to see you. Great to see you. And great to have you back here. Great to have you. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Well, we are very, very anxious to be able to work closely with you, and I know the Key Bridge is something that we're specifically. It's going well. I mean, we spoke to speakers.
Baltimore's time. And I want to say that loud and clear for anybody, especially in Washington, D.C., who might not hear me. If you are not willing to be part of the solution, keep our names out of your mouth. Donald Trump, if you are not willing to walk our communities, keep our name out of your mouth. If you are not willing to understand the pride and the beauty of this city and this community, keep our name out of your mouth. Because if you were willing to visit, if you were willing to spend time, if you were willing to actually walk our communities and walk our streets and not just talk about us from the Oval Office, you would see what we see. One of the greatest cities in the United States of America. So let's keep up the work. Let's make sure that we also hold the promise of leaving no one behind in this mission.
Took office 2 years ago, pledging to tackle education, the economy, and public safety.
Let's lead.
The stakes were high and expectations even higher.
I mean, no one has a resume like him. You know, best-selling author, Rhodes Scholar, military service, investment banker.
But registered Democrat and local economist Anaban Basu now saying Moore's performance has fallen far short. In an op-ed published in the Baltimore Sun, Basu dubbing him America's most disappointing governor.
The last 2.5 years have been tough on Maryland. Many people have moved out. Job creation has not been strong. And of course, we got that debt downgrade.
Basu noting in May, Maryland lost its coveted AAA bond rating, a perfect credit score the state held for more than 5 decades. The ratings agency citing budget concerns, while Moore labeled it a Trump downgrade, arguing it was brought on by mass firings at the federal level.
It is very clear that the impact of the Trump administration, that the impact it is having on the D.C. region and on Maryland, by extension, is real and it is severe.
But Basu points to red flags raised in 2024, the state's financial outlook slipping from stable to negative.
So Maryland's economy was already slumping before Donald Trump returns to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Instead, the opinion piece claiming Moore's overspending led to this year's $3 billion budget deficit, triggering $1.6 billion in new taxes.
Meanwhile, governors in North Carolina and Missouri, by the way, the governor of North Carolina is a Democrat, governor of Missouri is a Republican, are finding ways to save their taxpayers' dollars, to bring more wealth and investment into their states. It's exactly what Maryland needs to do, and we're just going the wrong direction.
But finances weren't the only focus. Basu also citing growing juvenile crime concerns. Arrests in Baltimore City jumping 146% last year. At the same time, Maryland's juvenile detention facilities facing allegations of drugs, staffing shortages, and assaults. Moore recently ordering the head of DJS to resign. However,
what's up, everybody? It is Monday, and it's time for Pop and Politics, and we are coming in hot tonight, folks. I'm KJ. Let me introduce my co-hosts. Of course, we have Nicole Bennett.
Hey, y'all.
We have Shelly E.
Hi.
And folks, back with us tonight is Tyrone Keys from Soldiers of Finance right here on YouTube.
Tyrone's band is back.
Yes, indeed. You guys, I know everybody's been asking, hey, where's Tyrone? He's back. He's back with us, folks. He's back with us every Monday at 9 p.m. on our Monday night show. Tyrone, what's going on? How's your summer been? How's it going over on Soldiers of Finance?
Oh, it's going well. Everything's going well, thank goodness. Happy to be here with you all this evening. But yeah, the state of Tyronistan is strong.
Excellent. All right. So, as I said, before we light this fire, do your part, folks. Tap that thumbs up, smash that subscribe button, and turn on your notifications. We're live here on YouTube and Rumble. If you're on the go, you can catch us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify under the name Pop and Politics. We love our chat. We shout out every super chat. I already see we have one here. Looks like a couple here. Who we have? I want to get you guys in now. Tijuana Border.
Hey, Tijuana.
Yeah, so the $20 super chat says, good evening, ladies and Nicole and Mr. Tyrone. All right. Yes, indeed. Kung Fu CJ is back. It says, hello, Tyronistan forever. All right. Absolutely. So yes, we love our super chats. It's the best way to join the conversation. And, you know, folks, it's a great way to support the channel because the mainstream media wishes we didn't exist. This is not just a podcast. This is a movement of God-fearing, truth-seeking, America-loving people that value freedom. Stand with us and subscribe so we can amplify this rallying call for freedom. All right, everybody, let's set it off. Lots to get to tonight. As you saw at the top of the show, we are going to get into the feud, the back and forth between President Trump and our governor here in Maryland. For folks who don't know, we are right here in Maryland, Westmore. We're going to get into it. We're going to give you the facts and the truth because Westmore has not been doing that. We are also going to get into the latest going on with Kilmar Abrego Garcia and his deportation. We're going to get into what's going on in DC and more. Before we get into all that, I want to have our moment of unapologetic American. So you guys know from our store, that's one thing. Another way to support us, our merch. We have our t-shirt, the Unapologetically American t-shirt. Great shirt to show that we love America. We're American first. We're unapologetically American. And so part of that, we are going to start a segment on each show, our Unapologetically American segment to go along with our t-shirt. Do we have the link for the t-shirt? Do we have a photo of our t-shirt producers? I'll wait for them to get that. But in the meantime, talking about our Unapologetically American segment, take a look at this. If this isn't unapologetically American, I don't know what is. This is clip 4.
You stole my purse with my passport in it. Police, you look police. Oh, yeah. Little girl, I have 8 kids. You're not getting to me. Call them. Okay. You're the one speaking. That's right. Let's get the police. And maybe I'll get my passport back. I don't even care if you keep the cash. I don't even care if you keep the cash. Thank you, sir.
All right. I thought that was hilarious. So that was a North Carolina mom. She was vacationing with her family in Italy and she was pickpocketed. And you saw there, this young lady who pickpocketed her is trying to raise a fit. And she's like, that's not going to work on me. You know, I have 6 kids, I think she said, or 8. She has kids.
8 kids.
Yeah, 8 kids. And she said no. And she held her by her hair. I mean, I thought that was that was quintessential American. Nicole, what do you think of that?
I loved it. As somebody who has 19 nephews, I get her. You're not going to scream at me and make me feel some kind of way. She did the right thing. And you know, when you travel abroad, losing your passport is worse than losing your money, right? Because it is definitive proof that you're an American citizen. Once that's gone, all hell breaks loose. So yeah, I felt her on that. Snatch her by the hair and get your stuff back.
Yeah. Shelly, what is your thought on that?
Yeah, it wasn't just quintessential American. It was quintessential mama who ain't scared of no child. That's what it was. Mama want to get your ass beat. That's what quintessential it was. That's what it represented. We need more moms and dads like that in America because we got a whole lot of juvenile up and coming thugs that need their ass beat and maybe their hair pulled and slung around a little bit in the house or somewhere else. That's quintessential America too, beating your kids when they need it.
Yeah, unapologetically American, Tyrone. That's what I thought about when I saw that. Well, no matter where you are in the world. What did you think of it, Tyrone?
Yeah, well, the ladies have said a lot that is spot on accurate, but I also think this is a testament of Trump's America. Nicole alluded to it. You don't want to be
Absolutely.
You don't want any questions about whether or not you're an American citizen. Trying to get back in these borders these days. So she had a lot of motivation to get that passport back.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's 100% correct. And folks, this is our t-shirt. We have a shirt that's really quintessential to this. Unapologetically American. You can get it on your shirt or on a hat. We have this on our merch store. That's the back of the shirt. And the front of the shirt says Unapologetically American. It's a great way to show your support for America first and for this country. And guess what? We're unapologetic about it. No apologies. We love this country, America first, and we're unapologetic about it. So please go onto our YouTube store right there on YouTube, right at the front of the page, and get your t-shirts, your caps, and your mugs. All right. So back to it. We want to get back to Maryland. All right. So this has been going on now for the last couple of days. Honestly, I kind of wish President Trump wouldn't even give Westmore the attention, because this is what he's doing. He's begging for attention. We know he plans to run for national office, and he just wants attention. So he's picking a fight with President Trump. And you know President Trump is one not to back down. This is Westmore this morning on Morning Joe, again, pushing this crap, these lies that we're going to get into, and again, going at President Trump. This is clip one.
What historically has been Baltimore's greatest challenge? Why has Baltimore had a crime problem over the past 3-4 decades?
Well, I think oftentimes Baltimore's had a neglect problem. You know, and I think about Baltimore used to be a city of 920,000 people. Baltimore is now a city of just under 600,000. In fact, if you look at the past few decades, Baltimore's had one of the most precipitous drops in population that we have seen in our country, with the exception of Cleveland and Detroit. But let's also remember this. There's a legacy of Baltimore. That Baltimore is the home of redlining. That Baltimore is the home of housing racial segregation. That Baltimore is, you know, while we're proud of the fact that Baltimore is the home of Thurgood Marshall, Baltimore is also the home of some of the most creative segregationist policies that this country has seen.
All right. So he said a lot there, a lot of nothing. Want to get your response to this, Shelley? Baltimore has a neglect problem? Is this what's going on?
Yeah, it has neglected to uphold and provide safety for their residents. That's what Baltimore has. It's neglected the residents, the people of Baltimore, the hardworking people here. Let's get this straight. When I was growing up, Baltimore was a beautiful city, and it probably was even better when my grandparents and aunts and uncle were growing up. But it has declined. He told the truth there. It has declined. It has lost a number of people, and we are about, I think, 500 and something thousand people from the high of 900,000 plus. So he told the truth, but it's not because of neglect of funds or of people. No, Baltimore has been run primarily by Democrats, and many of them look like all of us on this panel, okay? For years, for decades, that's the neglect. The murders were high for a while, 300 plus a year for like 8 years running. Thankfully, again, it has been significantly reduced. I give credit where credit is due, but that doesn't mean that Baltimore City has been cleaned up. It has not been. We don't have people moving in here. We don't have this job explosion for families to move in and create jobs and have good schools. We damn sure don't have good schools. We've been all over the news about that. So Westmore is full of it, like he has always been, like he tends to be, and like he will continue to be, full of it. I'll give you some advice, Westmore. You are barking up the wrong tree. You really are. You're not going to win with President Trump. President Trump can exaggerate all the different parts he wants, but you're not going to win this one.
Oh yeah. Tyrone, I got to go to you on this next. I mean, you're Baltimore born and raised. He was blaming all the problems on what he calls the legacy of redlining. Is there any accuracy to that?
Yeah, it's funny he would bring that up. 1910 residential segregation ordinance was signed into law in the city by J. Barry Mahul, the mayor at the time, who was a Democrat. So I'm sure he doesn't know that. But yes, the legacy of segregation in Baltimore is a legacy that was put into place by Democrats. Redlining also, same thing. So, you know, you don't need to have a lot of historical insight to appeal to the Democrat base these days, which, by the way, is shrinking. Thank goodness. Wes Moore, he's on there talking about Baltimore. Notice they didn't have Brandon Scott on there talking about Baltimore because it's a national program and you got to be able to articulate yourself at least to the degree of a seventh grader. And we know that Brandon has difficulty with that. So it's just more of the same. Wes Moore is an empty suit, talks a lot and says nothing.
Yeah. Nicole, he went through a lot of stuff there. And of course, he blamed racism. He blamed redlining. Is this what all the story? Is this what it's the major cause of the decline in population and really overall quality of life in Baltimore City?
Well, it's poor city management. I mean, when he talked about Cleveland and Detroit and Baltimore, they all have something in common. Democrat rule. I mean, let's just call it one of these things is not like the other. All of them have outrageous amounts of crime that, yes, may have been significantly reduced, but are still astronomically higher than everyone else. You can't tell me you were the murder capital of the world and now you're maybe like fifth on the list and we should celebrate. That's not how this works. Number 4, I'm sorry, Shelley, I was giving a little bit too much credit. But what's interesting is that he doesn't talk about the exodus from Baltimore. What prompted that exodus? Do you know what it is? Bad schools. Parents want their children to have a better life than they have had. Baltimore City schools are horrific by their own estimation. There have been lawsuits. There have been ghost students. There has been every single thing you can think of. And people say, well, maybe we're not putting enough money into it. The rest of this state is saying we have invested enough in these schools that they should be world class. This is poor governance. And he's absolutely right. The mayor of Baltimore should have a reckoning with him. As the governor of this state, he should sit him down and go, what the hell? Where's the money? Where's the progress? We're trying to turn things around. And these two men are stuck in the mud. We've got to push forward from this kind of leadership. And, you know, Baltimore Republican Party there has tried. And I mean tried. They've ran slates of people together, individuals. They've done everything they can do to break this monopoly, this stranglehold that Democrats have on the city. And you know what's going to end up happening? Everyone's moving out. The population will continue to dwindle.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's talk about the population. So Baltimore's population peaked at about 949,000 over that in the 1950 census and has declined steadily since, reaching 585,708 by the 2020 census. Recent estimates suggest it dipped further to 565,000 by 2023, and there's a slight uptick, and it was a slight uptick in 2024. But guess why? It's driven by that uptick was driven by Hispanics. Right. So guess what? He's talking about this mass exodus of within Baltimore City, and a lot of the Democrats try to blame white people. Well, there was an exodus of whites. I think it was the back in the what was it?
50s to the 70s.
Yeah, 50 to the 70s. Yeah, around the 60s to the 70s. Yes. But then, and that white flight, which is what they often call it, was linked to suburbanization, economic shifts, and racial tensions. But in the 90s and up to today, we're seeing a Black exodus, and it's being replaced by Hispanics. Why is that? We've seen that a lot of these Black Democrats are supporting and advocating for illegal immigration. And many of these illegals are planted in the cities.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say, KJ.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure, let's just not say Hispanics, but let's further give them an adjective. Illegals. Most of them, or many of them, are illegals, and they're here because, again, Baltimore is this sanctuary, but don't say it out too loud city. Okay. Mm-hmm. They have all these wraparound services for these illegals. This is why you see our idiotic mayor, trying to make a national stance sometimes again at Trump. Everything is Trump's fault. Moore had to go all the way back to redlining. You know that's not true. That's not true. And his challenge to President Trump to come and walk Baltimore streets, I challenge Wes Moore, number one, to be seen in Baltimore streets, number one, because I haven't seen him yet, and I live here. I could go anywhere that Wes Moore said he's going to show up. We can get there in 10 minutes or less. Okay, so he has not been here, and he damn sure won't walk the streets without security. So let's be real, right. Wes Moore. Let's be real.
You're absolutely right, Shelley. Maryland State Police are going to come through there and clean that place up, just like San Francisco did when the Chinese prime minister president came to visit. They will clean those streets up so nice and shiny, you would think it's a different place. It'll look like Carroll County. It'll be lily white clean and the grass cut nice and even with the little marks in it. Yeah, they'll clean it up real tight, and it'll stay that way maybe an hour and a half before the drugged out zombies come and do what they do. They just kind of nod while they're still standing. I've never seen anything like it. The balance these people have, that heroin does something to them that makes them super.
Oh yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible. But this is what we're talking about. So I want to really hone in on this, folks, because we have the Democrats, particularly Black Democrats, always saying how they are here for the Black community, and everyone else, all Republicans, President Trump are racist. But what we're seeing, and you always have to go back to the data. The data tells the story. And Baltimore City is like many cities. These Democrats are replacing you folks. They're replacing Black folks with illegals. And we see it with the Kilmar Abrego Garcia drama. We're going to go into that. But the data shows that we have black flight starting in the 2000s all the way up to today in many of these cities. And the Black Democrats in these cities are replacing these people with illegals. We saw in the lawsuit that Giovanni Patterson and his wife brought forward against Baltimore City schools. In discovery, these teachers are all talking about how they have tons of Hispanic, or I should say Spanish speaking children in Baltimore City schools. They're using these kids to fill seats so they can get more money and sort of filter that out amongst the unions and the teachers and all this type of stuff. This is what's happening.
Right.
And so, we need to highlight this because this is a major factor. And so let's talk about redlining, because this has been, I researched this. I did some research on this today because this is also another huge talking point amongst Democrats. Redlining, the infamous redlining of maps. And so they were drawn in the late 1930s by the Homeowners Loan Corporation, HOLC. Okay, so I actually didn't know this because what's redlining? What is it? So the government drew red lines around Black neighborhoods to deny them loans, trapping them in poverty while whites got rich in the suburbs. This is what we're told. This is what everybody, talks about. But did that really happen? So there was a study brought about. The National Bureau of Economic Research did a study back in 2020, I believe, on racial bias and redlining. And the study found that there was some bias. Again, starting in the 1930s, there was some bias, but it only accounted for 3 to 20% of why Black families were concentrated in redlined neighborhoods. Over 80% of Black households concentration in D-rated zones resulted from pre-existing economic disadvantages, housing market discrimination, and unequal city services that segregated Black families. But over 95% of Black homeowners over 95% of Black homeowners lived in these D-rated zones, 92% of the total red line population was white.
Mhm.
Okay. So, there were white people in these red line areas as well as Black folks. All right. And so Black household concentration in these red line areas, it was a small fraction because it was white folks in there as well. Are you guys following me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you provide some feedback? Had you heard about this, Tyrone?
Actually, I've heard a lot about it from one of the producers here, Giovanni, speaks about that quite often. And a lot of that legacy coming out of Baltimore. So it's just like the Southern switch, all of these Democrats were supposed to have become Republican during the civil rights era. Absolute falsehood. In fact, congressionally, only 2 Democrats switched to Republican. Strom Thurmond was one, and for the life of me, the other is so irrelevant I can never remember his name. But Al Gore Sr., he stayed a racist Democrat. Okay, so it's another one of those lies that has been embedded in our history to try to, and people. We talked about this on Just the Guys on the other on Saturday. Unfortunately, a lot of people believe history begins the day they were born, and they don't go back and they just accept as gospel anything that they're taught. The Southern switch, red line, and all of this other stuff, and they don't go any further, so they don't know.
Yeah. Again, over 95% of Black homeowners lived in D-rated zones, but 92% of the total red line population was white, showing redlining was not primarily racially driven, folks. But again, the Democrats always go to race. They always push that. Nicole, what are your thoughts on this?
One of the things that people don't take into consideration when they speak about redlining is jobs, right? What was in those red line districts that made it so attractive to poor people, regardless of the color of your skin? Factory work, right? Easy jobs to get, shift work. So if you were, a starting out family, you had a small child, mom could work the day shift, dad could work the night shift, and you could make enough money to possibly save up to move on to something else. But the jobs that were there did not require a college degree. They did not require you to have any requisite experience. These were, we're going to teach you hands-on, right? We're going to teach you right now to be able to perform this job. Manufacturing was a big thing in those red line districts. And for the life of me, I don't understand why Democrats keep overlooking the fact that most Americans don't look at this country as black and white. We look at this country as have and have nots, right? People who have money can afford to live in better places where there are fewer people, but probably some pretty good services. And people who don't have a lot of money have to live where it's easy to make money. Easy to make money. And that was the whole thing behind the quote unquote big redlining boogeyman. This had very little to do with race and everything to do with class, which is something that we don't often talk about here in the United States.
Absolutely. I mean, folks, it's decades of economic disadvantage. Black families were already confined to struggling neighborhoods long before the government stepped in. So again, as you mentioned, Nicole, poor schools, there was job discrimination, weak property rights, and outright violence pushed them into distressed areas. And when HOLC drew these maps, it mostly reflected these realities. Boundaries were set where there were already sharp differences in housing values, incomes, and neighborhood conditions. This is, again, what you mentioned. It's this class struggle. So in other words, the maps reflected poverty more than they created it. Okay. And so I'm not saying there was no discrimination here within this redlining. But the vast majority of this was not based on racial discrimination. It was not. And so when you have people like Westmore, once again, they are trying to blame racism for everything. And it just doesn't, when you look into the numbers, it doesn't jive.
Right.
So that's what I was going to say. I was going to make it a little bit simpler, if you will, a visual for how this homeowners loan association basically is a two-step. That's how I envision it. I might be wrong. A two-step process. They map out the areas where the income is not going to substantiate or sustain the repayment of the mortgage, right? They map out the areas first, redline them, whatever you want to call it. That's what they redline them. And it just so happened the second step, within those red lines were many Black people who met the criteria of not being able to pay back the loan. So that's basically a simpler way to look at it, right? Again, redlining happened, yes, but you're right. It did not happen just because Black people were there.
Right.
That's the point.
Exactly. Right. Well, the lines were drawn after HOLC had already refinanced over 1 million loans.
Right. And in those areas, people could not pay. Those were the high default areas.
Right. But it was like you mentioned, the lines were not drawn to discriminate.
Right.
They were the HOLC, the lines were drawn after HOLC already refinanced. So these maps weren't even used to approve or deny mortgages.
Certainly not based on race. Certainly not.
Well, not on anything, because HOLC had already, they were drawn after they had already.
I get that. I get that. But what I'm saying, I get that. But what I'm saying is that as a company or this loan company, companies do this all the time. They have demographics, right? They have demographics based on, and certainly on an economic basis. So they want to see where their default loans are coming from or potentially can come from based on the average income of that particular section. That's all. Again, I'm oversimplifying it just for the visual purposes. Okay. I know there are other details involved, but that's just the visual to help me how I kind of grapple with it. But the fact that Wes Moore and Brandon Scott goes back all the way to the 1930s. Okay, they weren't even born, but nevertheless, okay, and they still want to use this as the primary reason why, quote unquote, Baltimore has been neglected. That's not true. That is just not true. It had to. All these people that have been in office since the 1937, certainly, again, many of them look like us. And what have they been doing? Our schools, I think it was January or February of this year, the NAEP, all these acronyms, NAEP, the National Assessment Educational, whatever that stands for, basically said Baltimore was still one of the lowest educationally performing districts out of 26 large school districts. 2025.
Right. Yeah.
Our students still can't read and write. 6% tested at proficiency in math, less than 30% in proficiency at reading. This is over the last, 3 to 4 years.
Yeah. And keep in mind, just to get back to this redlining, the redlining that we're talking specific, there were multiple types of loans that were given, but the redlining corresponds specifically to the Homeowners Loan Corporation, or the HOLC. So that's why I keep kind of honing in on that, because the HOLC maps were drawn after most loans had already been made.
Since they already originated. So the Democrats use this, KJ, you're bringing way too much intellect into something that they have made into a boogeyman, because you say redlining, most Black people go, what? Right. I don't even know what that is. I have no idea what it is. And
that's the point I'm trying to make. We don't know what, a lot of people, I didn't know what it was, but I know people have, like you mentioned, has said, it's due to redlining, and that's why we are in the predicament we're in. It's due to redline, and nobody knows what it is.
Hell, in Baltimore, they might not even be able to spell it.
But it's also like, all of us are Uncle Toms, right? They don't understand that is not disparaging.
It is not. It's a beautiful compliment.
It is. Mm-hmm. So the redlining exposes something that the Democrats are ignoring, and that is a lack of economic growth in a certain demographic within the socioeconomic strata. They don't want to touch that. Okay, I maintain, it was cool when MLK was talking about integrating lunch counters, but as soon as he started talking about the dollar, he didn't last too much longer after that.
Mm-hmm.
So the Democrats are they have this information. They're purposefully ignoring the fact that this illustrates an economic disparity that they want to maintain because it's integral to their power.
Exactly. Yeah. And I want to say this, let's just go down this rabbit hole. When you go to these Democrat meetings and they talk about redlining and they say it with so much verve, redlining, they put us all together in this one little section and kept us here. Right. But do you know, think back, Black people all together, poor people all together used to have some of the cleanest neighborhoods. They watched after each other's children. You tried to keep people's marriages together. But what happened? What happened to us? How did we go from being all together is not a good thing, that we need to be, sprinkled liberally like salt from the Salt Bay, around the world in order to be successful? You blame a Democrat. Let me tell you, I'm not one to point too many fingers, but I'm gonna point all 10 and 10 toes at these people. They do this to scare the pants off of Black people, especially up and coming Black people. Right. The red line made Black people, we were cordoned off. Okay, but why didn't we succeed? That would be the follow-up question. They never answer the follow-up question. It was racist to put us all together. Other communities succeed when they're all together. Why not us?
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. And Michelle, one thing you brought up, fear. Fear has been used throughout history to make people lose all rationale and to make them do things they would not normally do. And so the Democrat Party has learned how to use this to its best functioning power. I mean, that is the power that I would say it's not even a power, but that is something they yield, and people fall for it over and over again and again. And I got to take this back to the biblical, because we're going to talk about this on Christian Conservative on Thursday, how fear in the Bible, that's the most mentioned phrase in the Bible. Do not fear or do not be afraid. Something along those lines. And because God understood that fear is a very powerful deceive. It's a deceit. It's not real, but this is what they use to manipulate us, folks. And they have used it in culture. They have used it in politics. We saw how they did with the COVID-19, how they got us standing 6 feet apart, people fighting in grocery stores because you're not 6 feet away from me. Where did 6 feet come from? It didn't even make sense when you look back on all this stuff. But this is what they use, and we got to call it out, because guess what overcomes? Well, we know God tells us that he overcomes fear, but also knowledge. Knowledge overcomes it. Fact, truth. Things like this. This data shows shows the truth of what actually occurred. So we got to continue to keep going, keep pushing this out. Watch shows like Just the Guys. Just the Guys had a great show on Saturday talking about all of this. You guys got to go over to @JustTheGuys podcast, subscribe. But they talked about this in detail, about this whole redlining and the white and Black flight from Baltimore City and other places. Definitely check them out. And I'm going to give you the biblical context on Thursday about how fear is used by our adversaries right here in the United States, Democrat Party. Yes, I said it, but it's a spiritual warfare that we need to fight against. So definitely check those out. And we dig deep into all of this. But President Trump and JD Vance are calling these people out. Before we get into this next part, I want to acknowledge our super chatters here. Thank you all so much. All right, Chadwick Reason says, what happened with live casino and the school system deal? Yeah, that was something here in Baltimore that was supposed to give all this money to the public school system, and they've gotten worse.
The lottery, everything else. It's a lie. It's just been a lie and a waste.
The lockbox, they call it. The lockbox. Lockbox never had a lock. Why do
Exactly.
Kung Fu CJ says, don't let Nancy Pelosi and her father off the hook. All right.
Absolutely.
With the $5 super chat. Yes, indeed. He goes on to say, Dems will throw the rock and point to the GOP. Yes, indeed. Thank you so much, Kung Fu CJ. Colleen just joined our Freedom Seekers Club. Thank you so much. Tijuana border jumper. Nicole, always the calm voice of reason. Yes, she is. And doesn't she look gorgeous with her frames tonight?
I lost the contact, so I had to see.
I think it looks sexy.
That's okay.
Sexy stewardess. It looks really pretty. Yeah.
Coffee tea.
Yes. Yeah. I'm about to say secretary, like a little secretary or something.
My girl Friday.
Yeah.
Cheeky, right?
Yes, indeed. All right. So, gotta get back on this because again, and see, when people like President Trump and JD Vance call the Democrats out, they call it racist. When all they're doing is pushing out the truth. Take a look here. This is clip 5.
Well, thanks, Mr. President. Thanks to the incredible team here. You know, I want to echo something the president said, where you say there haven't been murders in a couple of weeks in D.C., and it doesn't sound good, but then you talk to local law enforcement, and I didn't realize that this town averaged 1 murder every other day for the last 20, 30 years, which means that in 2 short weeks, the president and the team have saved 6 or 7 lives, people who would have been killed on the streets of D.C., who are now living, breathing, spending time with their families because the president had the willpower to say no more. We're not going to give the streets of D.C. over to vagrants and robbers and murderers. And the last point I want to make, sir, to your point about we want people to welcome us, to ask us, because look at Governor Pritzker in Illinois, or Governor Newsom in Los Angeles, or Governor Moore in Maryland. They are angrier about the fact that the President of the United States is offering to help them get their crime under control than they are about the fact that murderers are running roughshod over their cities and have been for decades. Why are Democrat governors angrier about federal law enforcement helping clean up their streets than they are about the fact that those streets need to be cleaned up to begin with? It shows a real sickness in the head. And I agree with the President of the United States. I think most Democrats, rank and file, nobody likes crime. Republicans don't like crime. Democrats don't like crime. Independents don't like crime. Why are Democratic governors doing everything in their power to make crime easier to do in their cities? It doesn't make an ounce of sense to me. But, Mr. President, I appreciate you being willing to help. And I hope these governors take you up on the offer, because we should clean up all of America's streets. It's the right of every American to live in safety and comfort in their community.
Do they deserve it, though? Shelley, what's your response to this?
So so first of all, JD Vance is correct. Why these Democrat governors, mayors, they are so hung up, again, TDS, if you will, with Trump, that they will say, damn their people, damn keeping them safe, damn having communities that are safe and clean and in order, if you will, where people can go out, work, whatever, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. That's not important to them. What's important to them is, again, fear mongering the people, saying that Trump is this boogeyman and he's going to come in and just take over. No, he's saying that you need some help. You need help. You need resources. And guess what? Like it or not, I have my hands on the lockbox. That's the lockbox I have my hands on to give you the resources that you need. Wes Moore is, again, I'm going to keep saying he's full of shit. And so is Brandon Scott. These people, they don't necessarily, they just want to keep themselves in power. Let me say it like that. Wes Moore is trying to make a name for himself nationally. Now he feels he can compete with Gavin Newsom. Again, Maryland, we've said this many times, Maryland is the other left coast, if you will. Anything that California does, Maryland seems to, hang on. And Wes Moore is really hanging on. He's really sucking it up. He's really sucking it in over there with Gavin Newsom. Maryland needs help. Maryland, by and large, needs help. All of these wraparound services, they're not working. We still have all juvenile crime. Again, our education is poor, as we mentioned. President Trump has the keys, and Wes Moore, you would be smart to take them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Nicole, what did you think about what JD Vance said there?
Listen, I love JD. I think he's got his finger on the pulse of what's really happening with America. I think it's the right thing to do to make these cities ask for help, make these governors come and say, hey, I need help. And if these governors and mayors were smart, they would embrace the help, because this, they talk about it being an 80-20 issue. I don't know any Americans that like crime. Not one, not Democrat, not Republican, not independent. There's nobody lining up to get their heads knocked in for the keys to their car. This is not an issue that should divide America. And if I was Pritzker, if I was Newsom, I would be like, yep, Trump, come on in, clean up. And I would be hoping beyond hope that it took him a longer time, because I'd call him on that. But look what he's done in 12 days in DC. There hasn't been a murder. And they average a murder every other day for the last 30, 40 years. Wow. Not one murder. So people were saying in the beginning, first couple days, all right, y'all, just stay in the house because it'll be over soon enough. They're going to be on the other side of the town. Just stay in the house and then we can come on outside. We can be outside again. Well, then, more soldiers showed up, and then it was like, well, we can't stay in the house forever. We've already done that with COVID. It didn't work out. Lots of guns off the street, lots of gang members off the street, children put back in the children's places. Hear that. It's a beautiful place to come to. I was in DC today, walking around thinking to myself, this could have been this way the whole time. If you've ever been to Union Station, midday, late night, whatever, there is a cavalcade of bums that you have to go through to get in there. You got to fight the bums once you get in there. You can barely use the restroom because they're living inside the stall. I mean, it's just a hot mess. It is very pleasant. There's nobody bathing out front. You don't have to step over anybody. It is a wonderful, wonderful place now. And I'm looking forward to the rest of the beautification that's going to come. These other states should welcome this help. This is not an election issue. I would not make this political. You will lose that battle. Absolutely lose it.
Yeah. Tyrone, we know that there are some people in these cities that are welcoming President Trump bringing in the troops and getting crime cleaned up, getting the homeless, vagrants off the streets, things like that. But do you believe that it's a large portion of them, or do you think people are just going to continue to vote the same way?
Well, the data actually says that the Democrats nationwide, in all of the swing states, by the way, they're in a deficit of over 5 million votes. Wow. Democrats are leaving the party in droves. Okay. Mm-hmm. And it's because people are smarter than the Democrats give them credit for. Now, one of the really insidious aspects of this is that we shouldn't even be talking about the National Guard in Baltimore or Chicago, because JB Babyback and Zess Moore, they see what the template is, right? So if you wanted to argue, oh, we didn't know how to fix it, now you do. All you have to do is activate your National Guards, which as governors you can do, and put them on the streets and quell crime. You have the formula, but they don't want to reduce crime. One of the main reasons for it is that, well, look who's, being deleted out there. Okay. Black men are being deleted and black men are going to prison. So that's not something that Wes Morris truly cares about, or Chris truly cares about. So that's the real, they by their actions, they are demonstrating that they want to keep blue urban areas mired in crime. Mm-hmm. They want to. And what's the motivation? Well, funding.
Exactly.
Democrats love perpetual issues. They don't really want to solve anything. That's why California keeps on getting hundreds of millions of dollars for the homeless problem, but homelessness in the state keeps growing. Okay. So this crime problem is a perpetual issue. They can fundraise off of it. They can demonize Republicans off of it. And they can fuel 501c3s like the Able Foundation, Black.
Absolutely.
Okay, so this is orchestrated.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And that's the Marxist playbook. And we've talked about this multiple times on here. That is what Marxists do. They crave and on chaos, because they don't have solutions to many of these issues, because the solution would be to, like you mentioned, Tyrone, put out more police, help these people, get them off of these welfare and social programs, help people, I would say encourage people to start businesses, better the education system and things like that. But this helps people get off of the government tit. And the government tit is what lines the pockets of Democrats.
Exactly.
So there's no money in having people that are drug free, don't have addiction, no crime, things are clear minded, are going to read. They want us enslaved because remember, during slavery, the slave masters didn't want you to learn how to read. Okay, and so when you got entire education system in many of these cities like Chicago, we saw their education public schools are failing. Baltimore City public schools are failing. They continue to keep these Black children in life because they can't read.
Exactly.
It's a modern day slave system.
And a permanent, or I think you said perpetual, Tyrone, underclass, if you will. It still goes back to class-based economics because if people can read, they can have steady jobs, save money, get mortgages, whatever, plant somewhere, have a family, work, have stability. They tend to not be in poverty. Tend to, for the most part. But again, these programs keep the Westmores, the Brandon Scotts, the Brandon Johnsons, they keep them employed. They justify their existence by these employment. See, you all need me because I've gotten you all of these wraparound services. I've brought in all this money, millions of dollars that the people never get. The people really never get it. Maybe the drug addicts and the drug dealers or whomever, they may get a little bit because they get public defenders and all these other services coming at them. But the people do not get it. They get more shit thrown in their faces. That's what they get.
Literally human shit. Because you walk down the street of Baltimore City, right downtown, and you will see human poop on the streets. People have, I've seen it. I've stepped over it, almost stepped in it. In DC, I know a story. I have a friend who was there riding, about to go on the subway, and there was a homeless person peeing on the subway, the railing, and his pee falling down the subway railing. This is what I'm talking about, the escalator thing. Yeah. So this is what you get, folks. We have some super chatters here. I want to acknowledge you guys. Thank you all so much.
Yes.
All right. Let's see here. David with the $5 super chat. Thanks. Super sticker. Thank you. All right. Kung Fu CJ says, where is my junkyard dog? All right. JD Vance. Yes, indeed. Josh with the $20 super chat says, Maryland is a special place. Nowhere in the country do you have a more normal daily coexistence between Black and white people. Only in America's big Democrat machine cities like Baltimore and Chicago do you have the chaos. Yeah, it's true. Absolutely true.
He's got a good point about Marylanders. Again, I think a lot of this perpetuated by the Democrat Party of being a racist thing is really class warfare. It really and truly is class warfare. The simple equation here in Maryland, people who live on the western side of the bay where we live often look down on the people who live on the eastern side of the bay, on the eastern shore. Why? I don't know. I know millionaires on both sides of the bridge, right? Black, white, or indifferent. But we have been told that they're inbred, they're kissing cousins and all of that. And they have been told that there's a likelihood you'll be shot, stabbed, raped, maimed, all of that if you venture onto this side of the bridge. And they do this for what? To keep us divided. To keep us divided. And it works. It works because no one really wants to make that 3-hour drive to discover that they are exactly like us and we are exactly like them. It is absolute foolishness, but this is what the Democrats do. And they do it because when you have a moment of clarity, Right? And clarity comes with most of your bills being paid. So you're not running around 3 or 4 or 5, 6 jobs. Your kids go to reasonably good schools so they can sit and do homework. And you've got a minute to think, am I better off now than I was 3, 4 years ago? Maybe I should vote a different way. Maybe I should look into this other candidate that's going to take me to the next level. That's the thought process they don't want you to have. They want you on that hamster wheel, fighting for every little crumb, so you don't have clear thoughts, so you don't start to think, where do my personal values line up in this political spectrum? It's just a power grab, always has been.
Now, I will say, you're right about that distinction that you laid out, Eastern Maryland versus Western. But the real distinction, the one that really matters, and I think there is something to this one, East Baltimore and West Baltimore.
Oh, yeah.
As a proud West Baltimorean, I can tell you, I just don't understand those East Siders, man.
Yeah, you know what?
Don't go there, Tyrone.
Yeah, I will say this. You do not remind me of the quintessential West Baltimorean. I will say that. You don't remind me of. I'm surprised that you grew up on the West Side, because you don't act like a West Sider.
No, he does not.
Yeah, he does.
First of all, you know how to speak. Secondly, you know how to dress. Okay, so those are 2 things right there. You're not country.
Yes,
that's what you're not country.
The particular thing about it, Shelly, is they're country and don't know it. They think they are slick and all this type of stuff, and they just as country as they want to be. Yeah, so we're just joking, though. We're joking, folks.
No, I'm serious.
All right. Well, speaking of chaos, we got to get to Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the non-Maryland man. This is what the Maryland man is what everyone calls him in the mainstream media. But this is no Maryland man. At least he doesn't sound like one to me. Take a look. This is clip 3.
Sisters, brothers and sisters, my name is Kilmar Abrego Garcia, and I want you to remember this. Remember that I am free, and I was able to be reunited with my family.
Un milagro, gracias a Dios y gracias a toda la comunidad.
This was a miracle. Thank you to God, and thank you to the community power.
Y por eso quiero decirles las gracias a cada uno de ustedes que marcharon, levantaron sus voces y oraron y nunca dejaron de creer y luchar por mi libertad.
And this is why I want to thank each and every one of you who marched, lift your voices, never stopped praying, and continued to fight in my name.
Gracias a mi pareja de vida, mi esposa Jennifer, mi hermano César, mi madre Cecilia, y toda mi familia.
Thank you to my life partner and wife, Jennifer, to my brother, Cesar, to my mother, Cecilia, to my children, to my nieces and nephews, to all of my family.
Gracias a casa, mi segunda casa, a mi sindicato SMART, a todos los pastores, a todas las iglesias, organizaciones y mis equipos legales.
This is the Maryland man? When I saw this video, I was shocked. I said, all this time he's been here and he can't speak a lick of English. Shelly.
Not a lick. Well, I don't think he speaks Swahili either. But they do speak English and Swahili in Uganda. So I hope he better tune up on that language as well. I think Swahili is a little bit harder than English, so I wish him well. These are the people, again, that the Democratic Party, by and large, they want to hold these people up and make them the patron saints for all of the black and brown people everywhere. That interpreter there, she thought that she was this was a high moment for her. I mean, she was on stage. She gets to interpret for this man who has been, the poster child that the Democratic Party is making him, and he's been underserved and made a criminal. I am looking forward to him being deported to Uganda. He should have stayed his ass in El Salvador. At least he spoke the language. I mean, he was closer to, I guess, family and friends in El Salvador, but now he's going to Uganda. Absolutely. It was a waste of money and time, but I'm glad that he is leaving. Deport him quick, very quickly.
Yeah. Nicole, what are your thoughts on that speech he gave?
Well, one, he speaks English. Let's just do that. I mean, he's given main character energy. Like, this is all about him. It's all about, Trump administration not liking brown people, especially brown people who make the Spanish. This is a whole hot mess. She's got on her CASA t-shirt with CASA across her chest, like, it's the United States of America. This is absolute propaganda, folks. He is currently in negotiations for a plea bargain on his federal charges. He accepts the plea, pleads guilty, can't come back. He wants to go to Costa Rica. That's fine. Nobody gives a shit. If he doesn't plead guilty, Pam Bondi said, you better practice your Swahili and learn how to dance, homie, because you're going to Uganda. And the Ugandan government is happy to have him. Not one MS-13 member there to help him. Not a one. He'd be starting from scratch. So he should take his life partner and his beautiful wife, Jessica, with him. And he should take his mama, Cecilia, and his brother, Cesar, and his nieces and his nephews. And then he'll have a whole family to start fresh with in a brand new nation.
Yeah. Tyrone, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's high time. He needed to be out of here a long time ago. This guy's a human trafficker. Okay, let's not forget that. And because of the soft laws, he was not able to be apprehended back when he was engaged in that evil practice. So how many people did he help facilitate being, sold down the river into all kinds of slavery? So I don't feel bad for him at all. I'm not even sure that interpreter was interpreting what he said. Because I swear I heard adios and El Chapo in there somewhere.
Oh my God.
So I think she had a script, maybe. Okay. So good riddance. Goodbye. Let's get on to doing some more.
And he's absolutely not a Maryland man, not by any stretch of the imagination. I know some stand-up men in this state, and he can't carry their funky socks. He is nowhere near a Maryland man. Don't let people tell you that foolishness. We have stand-up men here in this state.
Well, Wes Moore proudly calls him. Wes Moore and Chris Van Hollen proudly gave him the title of Maryland man. But this goes back to what we were talking about in the beginning. These Democrats, these so-called Black Power Democrats, don't give a damn about Black power. Okay, they only care about power. All right, and they are willing to replace all y'all dusty Black people who continue to vote for them. They're willing to replace you with Kilmar Abrego Garcia. All right. We have some super chatters here. Thank you all so much. All right, let's see here. Jessica says, my former co-worker, work husband, was shot multiple times on Thursday in Batesburg, Leesville, South Carolina. I've been crying on and off ever since. Oh my.
I'm so sorry.
Sorry. Yes, and I'm so sorry to hear that, and our prayers are with you and your family and his loved ones.
Absolutely.
Kung Fu CJ with the $5 super chat says, I disagree. West Side people are more civilized than East Side people. Wow.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Sounds like a battle.
Yeah. All right. Jasper Vetti with the $20 super chat says, Tyrone with the mental chrome, leaving minds blown. He's in a zone that makes dummy cracks groan. What?
Okay, Jasper Vetti.
All right. All right. Tijuana
Run DMC.
Tijuana Border Jumper with the $5 super chat says, not speaking English proves he is not an actual Maryland man. Yes, indeed.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And I want to ask you all something, because when I was researching this, I couldn't quite understand as far as the timeline. So we know, what was it? So in it all started back in, what was it, 2012. He came here illegally, and he was detained in March 2019 and was charged with removability. Because again, he's a native citizen of El Salvador. Okay, I understood that. But where I'm getting a little confused, so the immigration judge also found at that time he was a flight risk, noting his history of failing to appear for proceedings. Okay, so he appealed to the Board of Immigration Appeals, which affirmed the immigration judge findings on dangerousness and thus dismissed his appeal. Fast forward 6 months, he came back. So where was he during that 6 months? Where was he? Because after 6 months, he came back and challenged his removability with a new claim. He was asking for asylum, stating that it was dangerous for him to go back to El Salvador. Said something about his mother was being I don't know. He was being targeted by a gang due
he
to
said he
some
couldn't
type
go
of,
there because of his life was in danger,
right,
something like
papusa
that.
business or something like that, and it extended to him. It was not safe. But where was he all that sick? Does anybody know where he was between when they told him that when he first went to court, they found that he was not he was deportable, and then he claimed asylum. This was 6 months.
He was still here.
Yeah, he was in Tacoma Park.
Yeah, he was still
Tacoma.
here. He didn't leave the state.
So he was free.
Yes.
Basically.
Yes.
Okay,
to run
that's
amok,
what I
to
thought.
do what he wants to do with his mother here. So
why did they let him?
were they?
So
Give me a
that's what I
break.
don't understand. Why would they let him go if they knew he was illegal? They had already deemed he was even part of an MS-13 gang, and he was illegal
because our system was is broken. It was broken, and not only was he not detained, he was given a work permit.
That's what I'm talking about. And
he got into an apprenticeship program,
right?
know?
And that's what the mainstream left stream media is saying, that he is now being wrongly deported because he was given a work visa and so on and so forth. Why didn't they just deport him?
So actually they're using that to their advantage. If he was deportable and illegal, why not deport him? We, the country, if you will, gave him a work permit which substantiated or to some degree legitimized him being here with a work permit. So in their defense, again, we don't have to agree with the left most of the time. They're using that argument, that logic. Why would you give him a work permit if he shouldn't have been here anyway?
Exactly.
Good question. Good question.
Listen, and then
because I understood the withholding. They said, he had a withholding of removal because they deemed it was unsafe for him to go back to El Salvador or whatever.
Yeah.
But they still said he was here illegally. Instead of, stopping him, they gave him a work permit. Why would you do that? Why would you give him a work permit?
They should have never gotten involved the government should have never gotten involved in trying to determine whether or not he was safe from a rival gang in his home country, because you can have a young man or a young woman living in Chicago in fear of their life from the vice lords. Where's the State Department sending them? Or same scenario in LA from, a Latin or, black gang. Where do they apply for asylum? So we can't keep you safe from that kind of, that's not what asylum is for. Asylum is for political persecution. When your government is coming after you. If your husband is beating you in Mexico, that's regrettable. And I'm sorry to hear that, but that's not a reason for asylum to this country.
Right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And so as you all know, as we've talked about, he is supposed to be now deported to Uganda. Now, I don't know if you saw, he didn't say it in that exchange that we showed in the clip, but now he's saying he can't go to Uganda because he will be racially discriminated against. Did you guys see that? He said,
Yeah, I didn't see that part.
So you don't want to be around black folk, black Africans.
Again, there's no MS-13 to protect them. You're gonna have to learn to get along, homie. You're gonna have to.
Yeah, he actually
and there's
said
not going
that.
to be any sex trafficking there. Any human trafficking that happens will likely be you.
No.
How about the worm turning? How about the worm turning? This is not a man of any regard. When you think about that, he was in the business of trafficking human beings.
Right.
Half of those women who were standing behind him looking so proud, chest all poked out, there's a great likelihood he would have trafficked your granddaughter.
Absolutely.
Very much so.
Traded her in for a cold beer and a pack of cigarettes. And then what? When you think about all the girls who've gone missing in this country, just completely disappeared. And then you take a look at this guy and you have top name politicians rallying for him. It is absolutely disgusting. It is without this. Let me tell you, I'm not, mad at the people of Uganda by any stretch of the imagination. But if we pack up this trash and send it to them, I have a good hope that these people are going to do the right thing with this man. They're going to teach him some manners.
Yeah.
He's not going to be trafficking folk in Uganda. They don't do that. That's not how they operate in that nation.
And Hennifer and Cesar can go too. I mean, yeah, she might be a little bit safer there since Uganda. I think in 2010 they just passed the law where they outlawed domestic violence, so she might be a little bit safer there.
Right.
Listen,
And so, but what I don't understand is why Uganda? Why did they find Uganda?
Well, they can't come back to El Salvador.
So here's the thing:
he's not an American citizen. Hey, they can send him wherever. They just can't do it legally to El Salvador. I think legally.
Now that USAID is gone, a lot of these nations are looking for any way the United States government will write them a check. And if you're a third world, second world, fourth world nation, and you're looking for a check from the United States government, take you a couple of these migrants. Get you a $5 million check and just have them live somewhere, right? Let them start a nice life in your homeland to follow your rules, your laws, your regulations. Because one thing I know for certain, he's going to stick out like a sore thumb. And the second thing I know for certain, he's not going to be committing no crime in Uganda. That is not how they do it.
And he's going to be watching some Ugandan soap operas to learn that language as fast as he possibly can. Okay. There will be no CASA. They're not going to come to Uganda to try to help him out. Okay. So
he better talking about CASA. He better get a hut or some mud and some mud sticks and some straw to build his little hut. That's going to be his CASA. You know how, whatever. I'm losing no sleep over it. Zero sleep am I losing over it.
Yeah. And you're right. Because again, as we saw, he's lived here for over a decade and still can't speak English. Now he's going to Uganda. I bet you next time we talk to him, he will be talking Swahili or whatever the languages they speak. I bet you that.
Some kind of mishmash of Spanish and Swahili. I would like to hear that.
Yeah, because they don't play that there. You got to learn the language.
He will be singing show tunes in Swahili. He'll be signing in Swahili.
Oh my goodness. All right. Well, you guys sound off in the chat. What do you think? Do you feel badly that he is being taken into or put into a country where he doesn't know the language, he doesn't know the people? Do you feel badly for Kilmar Abrego Garcia? Sound off in the chat. I know we have some super chatters here. Let's see here. All right. I thought I had one that I missed from earlier. Oh, Ali said, hell no.
I know that's right. Nope.
Yep. Nicholas says, hi, ladies. Love your channel. You should get together with Barry Cunningham. He talks about and loves Baltimore. We need to turn Baltimore red. Thank you for your $5 super chat. Yeah, Barry Cunningham. We'll reach out. We'll look into it. All right. Jessica with the $10 super chat says his name is Scotrell Juarez West. Everybody at the job called us work husband and wife because there was just a mutual respect and understanding there. Plus, we argued and like we were married. Oh my
I'm
goodness.
so
I hope he
sorry.
does. I hope
Sorry,
he's doing
Jessica.
better, Jessica. I hope he pulls through.
Yeah. Well, no, I think he's already passed. Did she
Oh, he
say?
did. Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Sorry.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So yeah, we so many people are hurting, so many people are going through, and again, we you know, our hearts and our prayers go out to anyone that is struggling, that is going through a tough time right now. We really, you know, you are in our thoughts and prayers. All right, Nicholas with the $2 super chat says, I agree with you. Great guest. Yes, indeed. Yep. All right. Well, folks, that does it for us. I want to end tonight with just what stories are you all, or not even if it could be a story, it could be an issue, a topic, a news story that you are following and you want, and it's not really something that's, you know, a lot of people are talking about, but need to talk about. I'll start off with you, Nicole.
Donald Trump this morning signed an executive order about cash bail. My goodness, it's gone in Washington, D.C. with the stroke of a pen. And the hope is that it will spread across the nation so that when people commit violent crimes, it's none of this, I'm just going to walk out the door and I'll call you if I want to come to court. This is going to save us infinite amounts of time in the legal system. It's going to unclog a lot of things, especially the warrant squad going to have to go out and search and find the people who didn't put any money or any security up to get out of jail. It changes everything, and it's going to be a good look. Look forward to Democrat heads exploding tomorrow morning talking about cashless bail.
Wow. All right. Shelly, what are you watching or following that people need to follow?
Well, I've been doing this just for sort of a fun thing, if you will, or zone out. I really like true crime. I have been interested in taking a whole lot of, information in about these Idaho murders, the 4 students who were murdered.
Oh, yeah.
And recently, I started digging into these reports, or the reporting of the JFK Jr. Helicopter or a plane crash with him and his wife and his sister-in-law, right? And I saw I forget her name, the lady talking about it, and I was like, that's interesting. So I was literally this week planning on pulling up the NTSB report, because apparently, according to this lady Maureen Callahan, JFK Jr., he basically was on a death wish from, as far as, crashing that plane, all the circumstances leading up to it. And it's just an interesting take that we didn't hear at the time, and maybe haven't heard since. So she's pulling out some things, and I just just for my own information, I would like to pull that up.
All right. Tyrone, what is something that you think people need to be watching or listening for in the news?
Well, there is an interstellar object called 3I Atlas. It is coming through our solar system at about 130 miles per hour. It's 6 miles in diameter. And there are a lot of questions about this object. There are a lot of mathematical and physical anomalies that we've never seen before. And a couple are like so unlikely and so mathematically unlikely that questions are starting to be asked as to whether or not this is a naturally occurring object, or whether this is something that was at some point engineered.
Okay. Oh, wow. All right.
I was thinking it was the mothership coming back to pick us up, right?
Yeah. Wow.
Maybe,
all right.
Enough.
Yeah. Well, for me, I'm still talking about Christian persecution all over the world. Christians are still the #1 persecuted group in the world. It's a global issue. And while some on the right are talking about the Jews, Israel, and things like that, the #1 persecutor of Christians is still people of Islam, radical Islam. And so this is what I think we need to be focusing on, and talking about again with this idea of, particularly in, I believe it's Eritrean church leaders. So they've been persecuted recently with notable cases of imprisonment. Christian mother and baby were locked in Somalia, and ongoing attacks in Pakistan. So we've been talking about this a lot on Christian Conservative, KJ Christian Conservative. We've been talking about this, and so we will continue to talk about this because we follow what the number one issue is: targeting Christians. And so definitely keep your eyes open. Particularly, this is a Christian nation, and we want to protect our sovereignty. We want to protect our borders, and pray for those that are under persecution all over the world. So that does it for us tonight, folks. Thank you all so much for watching. We will be back on Wednesday night at 8 p.m. We will be back. So please, if you haven't done so, please subscribe, hit that notification bell so you know when we go live. Oh, we got another super chat here. Jessica Price with the $5 super chat says, everyone, please go to Gun Memorial and light a candle for Scottrell. Let me just see here one second.
Stories on WLTX 19 News.
Okay.
I actually just posted a link in the chat.
So again, Shelly?
I just actually posted the link for the article, one of the articles that's talking about the man that she knows.
Oh,
wow.
Okay. Okay. All right. Yep. We will continue to we'll check that out, and we'll try to post that to our YouTube page. So yes, we will do that. All right. All right, folks. Well, that does it for us tonight. Again, we will be back on Wednesday at 8 p.m. right here on Pop and Politics. There's no All-American Talk Show tomorrow. There's no All-American Talk Show tomorrow, but you can catch a previous episode right there at All-American Talk. You can catch their show in the previous episode and clips on at All American Talk. And so then we will be back on Wednesday night at 8 p.m. right here on the Metro Conservative Media Network. Great shows, all conservative from different points of view. Just the Guys on Saturdays, at KJ Christian Conservative on Thursdays, and Pop and Politics on Wednesdays. All right, folks, that does it for us. Until next time, count your blessings and live a life of purpose. Good night.
Good night.